for these features. Like I said earlier, this is being curated by Barbara Jane Reyes. I mean, I give it up for Barbara Jane Reyes. So the way it is, Barbara brought two amazing poets. I'm gonna introduce Barbara. Barbara's gonna read, and then Barbara's gonna introduce the poets. How's that sound? Hey, good. I always feel like I need to ramble a little bit before I introduce Barbara. Can I just say that? Is that okay? Because, you know, I didn't, this ain't me being confessional or nothing, but I grew up working in my mom's Mexican restaurant. My familia wasn't big on school. It's not a judgment call, it's just the way we were. So for me, my education came from the bookstores. That's where I spent my money, my tips in the afternoon, I'd go. And, you know, finding poets that reflect your experience is a profound moment. And I'll never forget that as a teenager going up to City Lights. And, you know, there was four. For me, it was Jimmy Santiago Baca. It was the Reverend Pedro Pietri. It was Sonia Sanchez. And it was Barbara Jane Reyes. Wow. And there was a thing there, man, where like, you know, you discover literature and writing and stuff, and you read, and you know, even when you recognize stuff, there's something still otherworldly about it. You know, these writers. And then there was Barbara talking about San Francisco, you know, me recognizing places that I knew, and there was Barbara educating me, you know, about these spaces and these places. So it's always a profound thing for me to have her here. Yeah, it really is. And she's got one of them big ass bios with all meat on it. No, this is check this out, y'all. Barbara Jane Reyes was born in Manila, Philippines, raised in the San Pancho Bay Area, and is the author of Gravities of Center, put out in 2003. Poeta in San Francisco, put out by TinFish Press in 2005. Diwata, put out by Boa Editions in 2010. To Love is Aswang, put out by the Philippine American Writers and Artists in 2015. Invocation to Daughters, put out by City Lights Publishing in 2017. Letters to a Young Brown Girl, put out by BOA Editions in 2020. And Want to Peek into My Notebook, Notes on Pinay, Liminality, put out by Paloma Press in 2022. Her poems and essays have appeared in the Asian Pacific American Journal, Chain, Hambone, Huizache, Maganda, Marías, and Sampaguitas, Meridian, Miss Magazine, New American Writing, New England Review, North American Review, Notre Dame Review, Poetry, Prairie Schooner, the San Francisco Chronicle. I hope you all remember the San Francisco Chronicle. Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center, South Dakota Review, the Southern Humanities Review, the New York Times, World Literature Today, and elsewhere. She's an Andrew W. Mellon Foundation Fellow, a recipient of the James Lawlin Award of the Academy of American Poets, the Global Filipino Literary Award, and a San Francisco Press Club Journalism Award. Barbara received her BA in Ethnic Studies at UC Berkeley, her MFA at San Pancho State University, and she teaches in the Uchinquenco Philippine Studies Program at University of San Francisco, familia. Give it up for the one and only Barbara Jane Reyes.
Thank you so much, Josiah. I'm so humbled by your constellation of poets and being included there. So thank you so much. Thank you for having us here in the store with Speaking Axolotl, having an El Filipinx edition of this event is always very special for me as well. And I'm very happy to be sharing the space with you folks, and then some stellar and accomplished Filipinx poets, and I'll say more about them. But really quickly for now, I guess I will say we are co-editing an anthology together, this kind of unruly cohort of Filipinx poets. I'm very very happy to be doing that. So I'm going to read a couple of my poems, and then I'm going to move on to some other poems by one of my mentors who passed late last year. So a lot of elegy today. Thank you for, for being here to witness. This is a poem from my mother, and this is in my manuscript called Daughter Song Diaspora. I am like 2 days away from signing a book contract on this. It's like fucking amazing this happened. So, I look at this again and I'm like, now I gotta get this already. All this work from my mom is gonna be out in the world. So this is the lament. When the mother was eggs, blood, and salt. When the mother was bud, blossom, and fruit. When the mother was migraines, cysts, and sacs. When the mother's lit firecracker in her arteries. When the mother was stone, was bone cancer, flowering lung, liver from flowering womb. When the breast branched into berry brambles, did she feel her heart chambers darkened? When the mother was a uterine entombment, when the mother was not goddess, not golden, when the mother was not silken, but sutured, serpentine stitches edging her sister's quilting. When her landscape withered, hot and parched. When birds dispersed her burrs, her diaspores. When the mother lamented rivers, so damned, her whole earth's inertia shifted, axis tilted up, and all the water spilled and filled her. Did she know her spirit was shedding her flesh, transfiguring into cool pinpricks of midnight? Did the mother know she was already in ascent? Who here knows Sugar Pie DeSanti? She also passed away last month. Same as Ricky Henderson. I was like, Oakland is suffering the loss of Sugar Pie DeSanto and Ricky Henderson. And this is from the mixtape that is in the center of my book, Letters to a Young Brown Girl, track Soulful Dress by Sugar Pie DeSanto from 1964. We'll shake and we'll shout till morning and roar. No, there's nothing tamed about us. Not the hemline, not the neckline, not this streak of red lipstick, not these shit kickers. Nothing silent, nothing shy, nothing here but fly. Nothing asking, nothing from you, except get out of my way, except this is no ask. Don't tell us to dial it down. Don't tell us to be ladies. We'll show you our teeth. Don't lecture that we reckless, just recognize. You step the fuck back, son, and you recognize. Joyful elegy, I guess. And I mentioned that my mentor, Nick Carbo, passed away back in October. And for those of you who don't know, he's almost single-handedly responsible for putting Filipino-American poetry on the larger national map of American poetry. This is his anthology from the 90s, Returning a Borrowed Tongue, that was published in the 90s by Coffee House Press. And at the time, there was really no such book like this that was nationally circulated. And that included folks who were coming up in all these different parts of the country. We had never kind of thought there were Filipino poets hiding in Kansas and shit, and then there they were, sharing the pages with like Manuel Robles and Shirley Ancheta and Jeff Tagami and Jaime Jacinto, who are from here and were our mentors, right? So Nick Carbo also, when I met him in the 90s, he said, I'm gonna put together an anthology of Filipino women's writing, so send me some poems. And I did that, I put them in the mail. And he emailed me back and he said, yeah, those poems are pretty good, send me 10 more. I was like, fuck, I don't have 10 more poems. I thought like it was over. I thought I was never ever gonna have a poetic career because I couldn't find 10 more poems to send him. And the rest is history. So, without him, we wouldn't have had the kind of vibrant scene that we have today. He tried to make us all be friends at AWP. That didn't even work out, but he tried. So for that, I'm going to read a poem from from his book, Secret Asian Man. Apparently he was listening to that song, Secret Agent Man, and hearing Secret Asian Man. So he wrote a series of poems from the point of view of a persona that he called ang tunay na lalaki, which in Tagalog means the real man, real manly man. And he said, think of him as like, I don't know, like Mr. Clean or something. What was it? Or the Marlboro Man, more aptly, the Marlboro Man. Ang tunay na lalaki tries to explain to his therapist why he always feels so angry. Did you know that Filipino workers were once classified below fertilizer in a list of farming supplies requisitioned by an American landowner? No, that's not why I'm angry. Let's begin with James Fenimore Cooper and the Last of the Mohicans. Most of the Native Americans were decimated throughout New England by 1826, and Cooper, having been influenced by the noble savage from Francois René de Chateaubriand's novels, bring to his American contemporaries an idealized, romantic view of the Indians. This did not help prevent the massacre of Wounded Knee, the Trail of Tears, the Apache campaigns, the houndling of the Nez Perce, the capture of Geronimo, and on and on and on and on. Let's go to Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. In 1851, that book did well in fanning the flames of anti-slavery, and your nation had to take arms against itself in the Civil War to abolish a festering evil. So Lincoln freed slaves, all this while operating under a constitution whose first ideals were all men are created equal. And it was not until 100 years later that they added the 13th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution, granting civil rights to the grandchildren, great-grandchildren of those freed black slaves. Meanwhile, in 1898, the United States, itself a former colony, having cast its shackles from its master, becomes an empire by taking Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines from Spain. To the eyes of the world, you have become a conquering race, conquistadors with manifest destiny, progress, democracy as your swords. No American has dared admit that they are conquering people, because unless they are willing to be caught in a hypocritical lie, all your sins seem to be erased from memory, given scant mention in textbooks. The Chinese Exclusion Act, the internment of the Japanese during the Second World War, the rape of Mexico in the mid-1800s, the fact that Puerto Rico is still, in essence, an American colony, the persecution of suspected communists under Senator McCarthy, the invasion of Santo Domingo, the deposing of South American presidents, the silence of serial murders never lasts long. Somehow they want to be stopped, they want to be caught, they are proud of their sinister deeds. He was doing this kind of work, and people were like, that's nice, little brown man. We'll hear more, hopefully we'll hear more about Nick, as we go through the evening. But he wrote a lot about, having to explain where he came from as a Filipino transracial adoptee. He was already in the Philippines, so kind of disconnected from the people and the culture, because he was living in this white enclave, with very elite Spanish parents. So his kind of imagination of the Philippines was something that was happening beyond the gates of his, of this beautiful place that he lived in. So this is his poem, Directions to My Imaginary Childhood. If you stand on the corner of Mabini Street and Legazpi Avenue, wait for an orchid-colored minibus with 7 oblong doors. Open the 4th door. An oscillating electric fan will be driving. Tell her to proceed to the Escolta Diamond District. You will pass Maneng Viray's bar, La Isla de los Ladrones bookshop, the Frederick Funston fish sauce factory. And as you turn left into Calle de Recuerdos, you will see Breton, Bataille, and Camus seated around a card table playing Abecedarian dominoes. Roll down your window and ask them if Mr. Florante and Ms. Laura are home. If the answer is yes, then proceed to Nolini Tangere Park and wait for a nun named Maria Clara. If the answer is je ne sais pas, then turn right onto the parking lot of Sikatuna's supermarket to buy a basket full of lanzones fruit. Then get back to Calle de Recuerdos until you reach the part that's lined with tungsten red Huantama trees. On the right will be a house with an acknowledgements page and an index. Open the door and enter this page and look me in the eye. You know, and him being this producer of these collections of Filipino work really kind of moved me to start thinking about, well, where are our generation's anthologies? They all kind of stopped after 2001, 2003, and you know, I had tried to kind of talk about it with some of my colleagues, Philan poets of my generation, and everybody was tossing it around like a hot potato and didn't want anything to do with it, right? So we waited and we waited, and I was like, you know, it's 2024, it's time to kind of do something. And so with his death, it kind of got us thinking, well, why can't we just do one, you know? And so we're very happy to have Flower Song Press, which is based in Texas, and it is helmed by Edward Vidamure. He said, yeah, put together an anthology, I'll publish you guys. So I'm very happy that that's happening. I'm glad to have this committee of editors that do include Michelle Peñaloza, Janice Lobo Sapigao, Rachel Cruz, who is down in Riverside, and Vaughn Torres, who teaches near Fresno, somewhere near Fresno. Clovis, thank you, Clovis, okay. So more to come on that. Okay, so I'm gonna introduce my first co-reader, who drove all the way down here from somewhere in Mendocino County, far away. So coming down. Michelle Peñaloza is the author of All the Words I Can Remember Are Poems, winner of the 2024 Lexi Rudnitsky Editor's Choice Award and the James Laughlin Award, awarded by the American Academy of American Poets to recognize and support a second book of poetry forthcoming in the next calendar year from Persia Books. She is also the author of Former Possessions of the Spanish Empire, winner of the 2018 Hilary Gravitic National Poetry Prize from Inlandia Books in 2019. Hilary was actually a colleague of mine my last semester of grad school, so I'm very happy to see that her name has lived on. She is also the author of 2 chapbooks, Landscape Heartbreak, published by Two Sylvias in 2015, and Last Night I Dreamt of Volcanoes, published by Organic Weapon Arts in 2015. Some of her honors include the Frederick Bach Prize from the Poetry Foundation, as well as grants from the Barbara Deming Memorial Fund, the Community Foundation of Mendocino County, Upstraight Creative Corps, For Culture, Artist Trust, Literary Arts, and PAWA, Filipino American Writers and Artists. You can find her work at the 7th Wave, Poetry, Honey Literary, Bellingham Review, New England Review, Lantern Review, and featured in American Life and Poetry. The proud daughter of Filipino immigrants, Michelle was born in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. She now lives in Covelo, California. Please welcome Michelle.
Thanks so much for the warm welcome and for being here, and Josiah for creating this beautiful space, and Barbara for inviting me here. I did drive all the way from Mendocino County. It's a really beautiful drive, so it wasn't too bad. Traffic was not bad, and I'm so happy to be here with y'all. So I'm actually going to start with Nick Carbo poem 2. So it's kind of, it's like wild to me actually that I even, like that Barbara Jane Reyes is like, yeah, come read with me, because I remember being, you know, like a rando Filipino in Nashville, Tennessee, not really having many Filipino American poets to read, and she was one of the first that I ever read, and also Nick Carbo was too. And I remember, I'm just gonna read this poem and then I'll do my little commentary about it, but this poem by Nick Carbo is entitled Little Brown Brother. I've always wanted to play the part of that puckish, pubescent Filipino boy in those John Wayne Pacific War movies. Pepe, Jose, or Juanito would be smiling, bare-chested and eager to please for the most for most of the steamy jungle scenes. I'd be the one who would cross the Japanese lines and ask for tanks, air support, or more men. I'd miraculously make it back to the town where John Wayne is holding his position against the enemy with his Thompson machine gun. As a reward, he'd rub that big white hand on my head, and he'd promise to let me clean his Tommy gun by the end of the night. But then a Betty Grable look-alike love interest would divert him by sobbing into his shoulder, saying how awfully scared she was about what the Japs would do to her if she were captured. In one swift motion, John Wayne would sweep her off her feet to calm her fears inside his private quarters. Because of my Hollywood ability to be anywhere, I'd be under the bed, watching the woman roll down her stockings as my American hero unbuckles his belt. I'd feel the bottom of the bed bounce off my chest as Small Arms Fire explodes outside the walls. Yeah, Nick Carbo, right? I remember the first time I read that poem, I was like a little baby poet, freshman in college, and I loved how sarcastic it was and like the references. And for those that don't know, Little Brown Brother is what Grover Cleveland, right, that president, called Filipinos, like as a, like, we gotta help them, they're so uncivilized, our little brown brothers. So that's where the title comes from. But I remember like loving the sarcasm of the poem, and then like rereading it again for this, I was like, oh my God, it's so gay. I love how gay it is. Anyway, there's my, I'll read my poems now. So the title of my book that's coming out in the fall is All the Words I Can Remember Are Poems, and it's the title poem is a sonnet that like I don't know, it's like a form I think I sort of made up where like one column is like all words in Tagalog. Like I grew up hearing Tagalog, but like, and I could speak it-ish, but not really. It wasn't like super encouraged for me to like be fluent. And so now as an adult, like my family can't talk shit about me because I can understand, but I can't really speak it well. So that's sort of like where I'm coming from in terms of language. So anyway, I'll just read it. Usap, every word spoken I pluck from the air. Ginto, gold coins in my ears, in my mouth. Pasko, like so many gifts beneath a tree. Yakap, like the embraces you might give me. Hana, I search for you in every syllable. Kumut, each word a worn blanket. Lungkut, a sound I wrap around myself. Lupa, here I am, still here on earth. Buto, as your bones are seeds singing from the dirt. Noo, I kiss my forehead to the ground. Aalis, you taught me there's no real leaving. Buo, what and who is missing is what makes us whole. Totoo, does that ring true for you too? Matamis, can you taste the sweet fruit I leave for you? Okay, and then this next poem is just new shit. I don't have a title for it, so I'm just gonna read it to you. Okay. As the sun comes up, I look up female anatomy, specifically reproductive viscera. I am scrying internet images and AI summaries for meaning, for prediction, for answers. Is this what my insides look like? Is my viscera normal or is it abnormal? And that is why my body killed my baby. Oh no, that's a bad thought. Of course, none of this is my fault. And that my insides, that is my body, i.e. me, I didn't do anything wrong. But what's the problem in there? What's happening or not happening or happening wrong? The words on the diagrams blur into more beautiful words. The longer I look at them, the more my eyes water. The iliac artery is lilac artistry, and lumbosacral trunk, now lambrusco sacred fuck. And now at least I can imagine I contain common lilac, an internal lilac, an external lilac artistry inside me, multitudes among my superior arteries and my ornate chalice of sweet, bubbly red, my insides tipsy with fragrance, effervescence, and maybe a baby, or maybe something else could bloom there. my last poem is, so how many people know what manananggal are? Have you ever heard of them? Some people. So I wore my earrings as like demonstration. So there are these creatures in Filipino folklore that during the day they are beautiful women just living their lives, you know, and then at night they tear themselves apart from like their torsos up. They become, they leave their bottom halves, like usually in like banana trees or like a closet or something, and then they fly into the night with big bat wings, and they have these really long tongues, and they go out into the night and eat babies. So, that's what they are, okay. So, mga manananggal speak. I was one of the first, bruja, babaylan. They spit aswang, manananggal. They made me into a monster. They split me in two, so I grew wings, flew. The moon sang to my tongue, grow and grow and grow and grow. Beneath vestments, beneath uniforms, they were just men. I slid beneath their mosquito nets and I slit their throats with my long razor tongue. Their blood tasted no different from any pig's. One day, shame began stopping women in the palenque from embracing me, even after I'd healed their scars, after aborting what they could not say no to, what they could not afford to feed. My tongue already sharp, shrewd as my mind, my appetite wet for freedom from my father's roof, my brother's watch, my neighbor's touch, my mother's lot. Biro, what's better, a woman's upper or lower half? Ask a Spanish friar, ask a Worcester, ask a Lansdale, ask a Roosevelt, ask the many sons of empire. Our lower halves, if found unattended, well, you know what they did. My cleaving, a relief, a great power to no longer carry fruit, to no longer swell in violation. I grow wings, my tongue unzips. I am wolf, I am owl, I am bat, I am mist. Split, rift, drip, slurp, warm, gift, need, relief. I leave behind half of me. I don't walk, I fly. Thank you.
One more time, please give it up for me. Well, we have got some frightening, gnarly creatures in our mythology. And they're also feminist and anti-colonial. Yay. All right, next up, please welcome Janice Lobo Sapigao, she, her. She is a Filipino American poet, writer, and independent scholar from the San Francisco Bay Area, unceded Ohlone land. She's the daughter of immigrants who grew up in a house with 12 people. Holler, people.
Hey!
Hey! She is the author of the poetry collections Like a Solid to a Shadow from Night Oak Books in 2022 and Microchips for Millions, PAWA, Philippine American Writers and Artists, Inc. in 2016, along with 2 other chapbooks. She contributed 3 entries to the Sage Encyclopedia Filipina, Filipinx, Filipino-American Studies. She's an earrings collector, an introvert, an avid reader, and a July Leo. She is working on a novel. She's a 2023 to 2026 LucasArts resident in literary arts at the Montalvo Arts Center. She was a visiting scholar in the Newberry Library in Chicago, Illinois, an AWP writer-to-writer mentee in fiction, the 2020 to 2021 Santa Clara County Poet Laureate, friends, fellow with, and a Poet Laureate Fellow with the Academy of American Poets. She's a tenured Associate Professor of English at Skyline College, where she works with community college students and directs the Honors Transfer Program. There, she received the Meyer Excellence in Teaching Award in 2023. She co-founded Santa Clara County's Youth Poet Laureate Program as a chapter with Urban Word NYC. And she co-founded Sunday Jump Open Mic in Los Angeles' historic Filipino town. She received a Ralph C. and Mary Lynn Hyde Rare Materials Research Fellowship at the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, and she studied the Philippine History Special Collection Archives in 2024. She will be a Mendel Fellow at Indiana University's Lilly Library in 2025. Please welcome Janice.
Okay. Well, what I like to say about the long bio is that like it's all true, you know? I don't know. And it's like so funny and long. Okay, here we go. I'm nervous, but I want to say that when I was a young poet, still a young poet, but when I was like starting out and like looking for Filipino poetry, I definitely found Nick Carbo, and in those anthologies, I also found Barbara Jane Reyes. And then when I went to study writing, everyone was like, you have to read Barbara Jane Reyes. And then when I talked to other Filipino poets, they were like, oh, does everyone keep recommending to you Barbara Jane Reyes? and it's just like, gosh, like, yes, like we're Filipino and from the Bay Area, and like, I also wanted to know more, you know what I mean? And I had hoped that like everyone else would want to know more too. So yeah, that's like my Filipino poetry anecdote. Okay, and also, okay, so like, I don't think I initially understood Nick Carbo's poetry because I was like, oh gosh, I don't understand these references. And then now though, I'm like, oh, this dude's hella funny. He's so funny. So he has this poem, I'm gonna read it, which is also like, I guess his last book, Epithalamion. Michelle taught me how to say it. Thank you, Michelle. And it's like type of poem that celebrates a marriage, but the poem is about divorce. And I was like, oh wow, okay. Uncle Kuya Nick, that's a good one. Anyway, and it has like a really beautiful line. I'm not gonna read the whole thing because I don't know the references and I don't know how to pronounce some of the references. So I'm just gonna read like, there's like 2 lines in here that I love in this poem. And God, it's so beautiful. Divorce is not the end of love. It's a process of starting to fall out of love. It's miserable grip. God, how fucking beautiful is that? And so here's my divorce poem. And yeah, so this poem is called When My Auntie Asks If I Think a Baby Will Make Things Better Between Us. I think about how we made our most important decisions with our backs turned against each other in bed. When I needed the afternoon with you, when you asked if your father could stay, when 3 a.m. came and I wondered if I would be there asleep in the privilege of slumber while my mom's cancer climbed through her body, how you were scared that we would never find a new place to live after we outgrew our city. How would we pay for the move if the money didn't come anchored in the talks about the classes and your new job and the one I passed up because I wanted to be near my family? Remember when I took a flight to Los Angeles for a day and a half after your dad's heart surgery, how we slept on a mat on the floor and I wished we inherited ease. Remember when the sheets you bought from the baby section of Target, the canceled trip to Mexico City, when I asked you to repeat after me when we met with the obstetrician, my belly full of questions, how the doctors always listened to you more than me in my own appointments, how you slept like a skyscraper on your side that night, so far away, how you asked me to go to bed with you after I told you how the appointments made me miss my mom and I didn't know if I wanted to anymore. And I was being honest, and no one falls in love to fall out. There was no baby, and it didn't make anything worse than it already was. There was no baby, and I made so much space. The baby we never had was the straw that broke, the better never than late, the bridge right here. the clinic I went to by myself on most days. I just know I can't turn a baby into a wish, or our wishes into a baby. Thank you. There's life after love. There's love after love. Yeah. And I guess like there's also loneliness after love, you know? Okay, so like one of the places where I've enjoyed being the most lonely are like archives. Archives in the American Midwest. Which like I never thought I would just fucking spend summers in like refrigerators for books in the Midwest, but like here we are. And so like in these archives I found, okay, like maybe you know this already, but a lot of like Filipino archives are in the Midwest, and it's fucking wild to me how many there are. And it's because all of the people, the white male professors who went and collected shit from the Philippines on the expedition, all were hired in these like very white institutions and brought this shit back with them, and like everything is mislabeled. They don't know what they have. And one time like a curator was like, oh yeah, we have this bag. And the bag has like hair on it. Not fur, but hair. And I was like, that's not a bag. It's a bag for headhunters. So it held heads, you know? And then they were like, oh, there's this knife. It looks like a scythe, like maybe it's for like cultivating rice. And I was like, or it's for necks. You know what I mean? So it's been pretty wild to go into those places, and so I thought, let me write about them. And I only have one poem with me, which is called like, and I've been using like this Filipino form of the awit, which is like, oh my God, Barbara's gonna correct me. It's like a 12-line poem with like 12 syllables in each line, and it's hard. It's hard, and on the 6th line, there's supposed to be a turn in the poem. So anyway, this is the headhunter's broken awit. The curator surmises that the knife on the shelf was used to cultivate the land. Maybe he was right. Maybe the sharp edges of its slim, curved spine was not the shape of a neck, but a small shovel to crease the earth. I want to say, the blade is a tip and a tongue. It has said many names for a last time, sliced through the sinews of lineages. What comes from the land returns to it in pieces. The knife was not a weapon, but an instrument, singing of beginnings and endings, humming a centuries-old song in languages that could not tame the bodies in the graveyards it created. Headhunters. Those poems are dark. They're pretty dark because I feel a responsibility to say something about these things, you know? Okay, here we go. Hi. Are you all okay? Yeah. Okay. I'm okay too.
We're okay.
We're okay. Oh gosh. Okay, so speaking of like institutions, anyway, these are love poems outside of institutions. Yeah, and I kind of wrote them like little like meditations because I was like, okay, meditations I think are for like when I want to know something and I want to like know it and feel it deeply. And so I was like, okay, like I think I know things, so I should write things that I know and have felt deeply. So anyway, this first poem is about waiting, because I know a lot about waiting. Yeah, and it starts with anyway, it starts with an epigraph. Waiting is what we do in the slivers of moments where we are not working on our love. And it features a line from Nikki Giovanni and this poet I don't know named Stephen Dobbins. Okay, on waiting. I steal a kiss, place it on my love's cheek before anyone sees, before the officers could parrot a line, could tap dance a threat. We pretend we are chairs in a movie theater. We are as still as a screen. We are red velvet plush and starburst chandelier suspended. We want to be hydraulics and stage smoke. We are as serious as choreography and direction. I am a visitor in this punitive vaudeville film. Say my love is a young Filipino Ellsworth. Say he is an American Duchesne. My love is coming home to me. I carry a weapon, a softness. All I could ever hope to be is Mamie, Shelley, Monica, Burnett, Renee, Butterfly. A strong woman unaccustomed to rest without her beloved. The way love is really about safety. Love is time. Remember when it took years for a movie to come out? How you could still see the trailer, the bootleg, how it was worth the parking lot traffic, the crowd bottlenecked into a queue, before you could choose your seat or buy your tickets online. You know, oh, okay, David is sleeping, but David knows what that is. No? Okay, anyway. In spite of convenience, how love isn't about the worth and it isn't about the weight, but what we are together. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's do like okay, here we go. Okay, 2 more? Huh? Okay, 2 more. This one is called On Sisterhood. Yeah, On Sisterhood, an ode to the women I have met in the visitor center, waiting for my love. And it has a, okay, I've been watching like, oh God, I hate watching it, but I've been hate watching it. Scandal with like Kerry Washington. Anyway, there's this quote where her character, Olivia Pope, says, I don't want normal and easy and simple. I want painful, difficult, devastating, life-changing, extraordinary love. And I'm like, me too. Okay, On Sisterhood, with lines from Lauryn Hill, Meg Fernandez, and Patrick Rizal. Okay, everything is everything, and everything is leverage. The women I've met here are from the landscapes of California orange to the earth tones of Indiana, down to the silver shine of Texas. In central Michigan, we pause and corral the birds, elephants, and bears of our lives, just so that we too could fly and drive in our Sunday best on a Monday visit. Here is a chaperone or 3, and wearing black and khaki, yelling, always finding a problem where they don't exist. But here is a party, the vending machine catering, and the boisterous bliss of a boy sitting on his dad's knee for the first time. And a daughter who is also a mother, but is a daughter today, seeing her father who is fighting prison and cancer. In the corner is a birthday, a graduation ceremony, an anniversary. Here is laughter and photo backgrounds with colors that contrast the mute maroons and the poisonous snake greens. Here is a photographer without whom we'd have no record of this memory. Here is a hotel ballroom, no, a theme park, a photo booth, no, here is a marriage proposal. Here is my love on one knee, hella sweating. Or once there was another couple, kissing, trying to sneak another one in, and another, and others too who have finally made it here after being told to change our clothes, or to show them what's in our socks, or to empty our pockets, or to lift up our hair, or to take down our hair, or to stand as if we are being crucified, Jesus Christ on a cross. We do everything we are told, how we will absolutely, as surely as the day will end, do everything for our loves who wait for us too. Last one, on judgment. Dara, I sent this to you in the group chat. Did you listen to it? It's all good. You can hear it right now. Waiting for my friend's response. I was like, did y'all like this poem or no? It was 10:30 p.m. Late. It's okay. On judgment. No judgment. Getting high on a Saturday night in your 30s is different from getting high in your 20s. If only I'd known a decade or so ago that I'd be scheduling smoke sessions with my neighbors, like appointments with my primary care physician weeks in advance. I might have had less nights, less skincare, less chamomile tea, and more fences blasting off through the trees into the moon. In fact, anytime I have had Mike Tyson's THC gummy bites, which are edibles in the shape of a bitten ear, I've landed wherever the NASA Webb Telescope goes, but unbroken light, star-forming galaxies, and supermassive swirls of dust, I too have discovered new planets in places unseen while not being able to feel my ankles or remember my zip code. As an adult, I have launched myself into situations where I've been on the phone with my sweetest love and I told him without context, "Oh my God, babe, I have no more secrets left." To which he replied with laughter and suggested meditative breathing techniques, which I would later need when at my neighbor's dining room table as the second in a 3-person rotation when one neighbor makes eyes with me as if to say, "It's time." And right there, I realized that secrets can crop up anytime, can be tapped out like ash at the end of a joint. They can be omnipresent like the wind tunnel we created with the ceiling fan circulating the air out of the apartment like a pulmonary system. After all, we are grown-ups here, old enough to know how the scent of cannabis lingers like a hangover in our shared hallways, unwanted, like a harsh breath. My love says prison takes and takes, but it gives and gives great grief. When I tell my neighbor, I say slowly, incarceration, I say Michigan, I say purple state, I say youth tried as adults, I say poetry, I say love, I say the secret. She hears me and travels through an astral plane. My love has written before, you listening and me speaking, this is a trial. She and so many others have asked me, what about money? And what about letters and phone calls? And why? Why do you love someone unreachable? And wow, the state is in your relationship. And what did he do? And what did he do? And no one has asked me anything that I haven't already asked myself in the voices of the cops inside all of us on patrol. Thank you.